Today's episode, we welcome Joe Reddix, CEO of Reddix Group. Joe, welcome.
Hey, it's a pleasure there, Max. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. So let's start with why did you start your business and what motivated you to start that kind of business?
Well, back in 1960s or so, 1967, when I graduated from high school, I had looked at certain areas. I wanted to be a fighter pilot at one time, in the
Hmm,
military.
nice.
And next to that was technology. That comes from reading comic books and things like that. I became very interested in computers and how computers work. But back then, of course, they didn't necessarily exist nowhere clear to where they are now. But it became interesting as a field that had potential. So I got into it right after high school. Take Took a couple of courses in key punching and things like that because it's still used key punch cards. But make a long story short, I developed an enormous fascination. And when you look at being able to have a passion for something, so 58 years later, I'm still in it. And that's why I formed my company so I can do more of that kind of stuff on my own kind of thing. Okay.
Nice. And at what age did you started that company?
Oh, God. I started the Reddix Group about 20 years ago. So
Okay, got
I'm
it.
probably, maybe around, I'm 76 right now. So around 50 or so plus.
Nice. And in the business, are you like the decision maker? Are you the tech guy? What's your role in your business right now?
All the above.
Oh, the
Now,
other.
right. Now, the beauty is throughout all those 58 years, you learn business
Yeah.
capabilities, finance, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, to make a long story short, what I look at is that it's a major part of it. The technical piece is more of the deep passion, but having a business background, Fannie Mae, United Airlines, Wang Laboratories, and all of that, that gelled it a lot. Being able to
Mhm.
have a business background that covered multiple industries. Okay.
Yeah. So was it hard to like change from like the IT side to the business side? Was it hard to like understand both? Because like sometimes people are good at like doing the tech and then they start business and they're like really not good at it. So how was the switch between those two?
It was pretty easy because I'd
Okay.
always been a penny pincher, which means I like finance and stuff
Nice.
like
Okay.
that, going to the grocery stores, buying groceries, you know what I mean? But the idea of tying finance into technology is kind of like what I did when I came out of the Navy. I was a data processing technician in the Navy, and I got a job in a bank. So
Hmm.
that allowed me to
Nice.
learn a lot about finance. That's when I learned how important industry background, multiple industry background, for example, would be. Okay.
Hmm. Nice. So it was pretty easy for you to just basically learn it and go into it. So no really struggle for that.
That's a good point. I learned a long time ago that I have a good memory. I have a photographic memory. I can
Yeah.
remember my programs and stuff like that. So that really helped
Hmm.
a lot. Now, when you have a memory like that and you're coding and you're designing and things like that, you remember a lot of what you did before.
Yeah.
And I never forgot all of that. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
a evolving blueprint in technology.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, decades later, I clearly know where it came from,
Yeah.
and I know where it's going because I know where it came from and where it is right now. If that makes sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Nice. That should be nice to have that memory because I don't remember things easily like that. But so coming back for the industry side of the IT, you just mentioned that you started with punch card and now we talked about AI. So extremely big change in the couple 20-ish years. What
Yeah.
are the major shifts on your part that stand out the most? Maybe AI, quantum, classical computing.
Okay. It is easily the massive amount of information that you can compute and process and communicate and things
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it's massive and
Yeah.
it's going to be even more massive. So that's the big change. Back decades ago, if you had a 3,000 punch card deck, you would carry it in a big tray like this.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes for some reason, you would either drop the tray or the cards would get mixed up. Now, could you imagine all these 3,000 cards laying on the floor?
Yeah.
You got to pick them up in some way so you don't have so much of a big headache putting them back together. Then you use what they call a sort needle. A sort needle goes right into the hole of the punch card. So that's how you would line up the cards and stuff like that to get them back in order. You would
Oh
have
my
to
God.
use a um, a punch needle. Okay,
Hmm.
so basically that ruined your day because it would take you almost the rest of the day to put everything back together. And then if one of the cards is bent or jams,
Uh-oh.
and it's an important card, then you got to go back and reproduce the card and all that, But it was a lot of fun. Not to drop the cards. To make sure the cards don't have any dents or anything like that.
Yeah.
Make sure you clean out in the card readers, for example, any residue from the cards. And
Hmm.
you don't have to even worry about any of that now. But back then,
Yeah.
that can mess up your whole day.
Hmm. So for now, the card in the time is now of the past. I never even heard of that, or I don't even have an image of that. So as of our technology right now, what was the biggest shift that you're excited about, or that motivate you, that you're seeing
Oh,
coming in, that you're like, oh my God, this is gonna change the industry? Oh,
okay. Okay, that's another good question. Well, when I got into computers in the Navy, I tested into that. In other words, I had a high enough score to be either an air controlman
mhm,
or to be into what they call then machine accountant in the Navy. Then it became data processing technician. But as far as I know, from a standpoint, out of 4 years in the Navy, I think I've never met anybody that was in my field from the
hmm,
standpoint of being a minority in computers and things like that. Out of 4 years in the Navy, I never met one other person.
hmm,
Okay, so that was unique, and it was a lot of training required to read 3-inch books and things like that. But I've learned how to read and then how to associate and then do what if. Back then you were wiring boards. So what if I
hmm,
changed the board wire from here to here? And it would do certain things, like a 407 accounting machine. You may never heard of that, but
nope.
IBM 1401 computers and all. But you make little small changes, and they change an awful lot.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now it's more forgiving. Back then, it was not
Hmm.
as forgiving. If you had an error on, say, a printout and stuff like that, you have to go back and correct it because it could mean a lot of downstream, a lot of issues. Okay, especially in the warfighting and Vietnam War and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So you learn precision. You
Hmm.
learn what the equipment can do, how to use the equipment, how to fix the equipment,
Yeah.
and how to integrate the equipment with other pieces of equipment. In other words, you share information between different pieces of equipment to get a
Hmm.
particular answer.
Yeah.
Now you don't do that. Now it's instantaneous. You don't have to worry about, you can do it through voice and all that kind of stuff. Back then, there's no way in the world you can get away from having to type in the information and things like that. So it was a lot more manual. Okay.
Hmm.
And um, the information was secure, top secret, and things like that. So
Yeah.
you got to be very careful with it because there's a lot of safeguards and stuff that you got to watch out for. Um, I started developing artificial intelligence, the strategy for it, which is really key back then. Even though it was
Hmm.
not, it was vacuum tubes. You learn how to develop computer strategy. In other words, how computers work, how
Hmm.
they manage information
Hmm.
even though it was much different than it is now, it still was information, required a proficiency in how to manage information, how to read it, how to determine what it is.
Hmm.
Now, a lot of the AI and things like that do that for you. But back then, you had to do all of that yourself. Okay.
Hmm.
Debugging software and things like that. And uh, what they call memory dumps. Memory dump is, for example, say a program blows up in memory, it dumps, and then you have to go in and read that dump, which is full of a lot of numbers and characters to figure out what happened. It uses what they call a program status word. Most people don't understand that all of this stuff that happens now came from my era,
Yeah.
and that's how I know why it is where it is and why it got there. But the accuracy and things like that came from all that knowledge of having to have a lot of detail to what you do. Say that. Okay.
Hmm. And though
You
that,
learn, yeah.
go ahead.
No, you learn patterns and how to do certain things. Back when it's archaic like that, you had to learn the patterns, or you waste your whole day, that kind of thing. Okay.
Hmm. And that AI strategy that you did, what year was that around?
Oh God, AI. How can I say this? It's not like it is now.
Yeah.
AI is very memory intensive. So anytime you're
Yeah.
programming directly into memory, in other
Mhm.
words, where all your stuff and your data and all that, and you're using memory, that is where I started my artificial intelligence. And to answer your question, oh God, that was either probably about 30 years, 35 years ago. Okay.
Goddamn.
When you have memory, more and more memory in computers, and you could do
Mhm.
more and more things, and you would use kind of like an AI like kind of stuff, how like artificial intelligence use large language models,
Yeah.
basically stores information in different layers and all that. You build that into, say, your business program or your assembler program or assembler level language and all that. Years ago, you would build something very similar to the memory mapping that AI uses, okay, where it's matching different things and what do you call it, neural networks. Back then, those neural networks were more toward what you put into what they then called a register. Okay, a register stored information and all that. So that led to the strategy of artificial intelligence because what you put in registers is right in, registers and memory makes the computer back then do what it's supposed to do. So
Hmm.
you kind of like learn how to automate certain things, like you store stuff in memory, for example. Okay, very similar to what AI does now.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to go out and get a lot of stuff. Most of the time for optimization, it's now resident in memory. I learned how to make
Mhm.
my programs and data extremely fast by learning how to make them resident in memory and how to optimize memory. Same concept I'm using right now for AI. Okay.
Hmm. That's fascinating to hear because you think like AI is brand new in the last past like 5 years or even
No,
that. Like people are like, oh, this is brand new. This is like a just happened, just a new technology, but it's been here for you just said 30 year-ish that people
right.
actually
Autopilot.
pretty much.
Autopilot in an airplane, for example.
Hmm.
Autopilots have been around a long time.
Yeah.
That's a form of
Oh, man.
artificial intelligence. Okay. It's
Right.
pre artificial general intelligence and it definitely pre artificial super intelligence, but it was automated intelligence no matter what, like the
Mm.
beginnings of it, auto pilots and things like that, that autonomous technology. That was more near the concepts of where we are now. Back then, auto techniques, even in the manufacturing where you have an assembly line, a lot of that is the precursor to what we have right now. Say that.
Hmm. That's kind of nice to understand it on that way because you never think about I never think about AI being like a that kind of thing, automatic pilots and stuff like that. So it's kind of open-minding
Yeah.
to like realize that. So coming back to we talk a lot about AI, but I think on our call that we did before this podcast, we talked a lot about quantum too. That was two of the big subjects that we talked about. So which one of those two do you think will make like a biggest real world impact on my business or just in general? Do you think quantum's going to be a bigger impact or AI is going to be a
Oh,
bigger impact?
you know something, Max? That's another real good question. Let's
Hmm.
look at what we're trying to do. Okay. I have to give a little history.
Yeah.
Okay. Years ago, it was oil, that was the money. Then it
Yeah.
was data, that was the money in the year 2000s. Now it's compute.
Mm.
So, given compute will be here a long time, and compute equates to performance, I would say quantum. Okay.
Hmm.
Quantum running AI is optimum performance. See?
Yeah.
Speed and performance. If your algorithms and your coding matches the type of optimization you want from your quantum computing and quantum environment, it'll be a highly optimized environment. So quantum really is the heavy enabler in compute, which is what right now is the money maker, compute. The
Hmm.
reason being, milliseconds, nanoseconds, things like that matter, especially say for tier one, tier two, tier three operators in the defense environment and all that kind of stuff. Even in business, microseconds and milliseconds can make the difference between you getting a hefty bonus or not. In other words, getting the product out there, getting it designed faster than everybody else.
Hmm.
Optimization equates to potential savings in
Hmm.
energy. You know, faster you do stuff, more energy you can save, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, Optimization, to give you a perfect example, say optimization in supply chain logistics. Okay.
Yeah.
You see how fast I can find out that a part may not be able to be shipped because of a certain issue or whatever. That saves me rather than viewing it in a mail
Hmm.
piece of mail or a email. See, when these systems are presented in a quantum artificial umbrella, speed and performance becomes the asset
Hmm.
globally. Okay. Years ago, working for American Express, it was that we had to have an authorization for the credit card, which some of the systems my team helped design, 5 seconds or less worldwide. Do you
Hmm.
know that was 30 years ago? 5 seconds,
Yeah.
30 years ago. Okay.
Hmm.
So the key is time is money. And the beauty is that now with quantum being the one that I think that wins the battle between quantum and AI, AI needs a quantum engine to optimize artificial intelligence, optimize the
Hmm.
neural networks, optimize the ability to read data and things like that.
Hmm.
Optimization equates, again, to long term value. I get my stuff out there before you get your stuff out there, that kind of stuff. Okay.
Hmm. So what's the optimized AI structure? It would have like the quantum computing, then all the data infrastructure to connect to it. What's the like optimal AI like infrastructure to make AI the best as it can be?
Okay. Okay. If you're looking at AI,
Yeah.
AI is structured as algorithms and things like that, which is
Yeah.
code. Okay. And
Yeah.
code rules. You can have the hardware and all that, but clearly the second part of that, other than quantum, would be a close brother, which would be AI itself. Now,
Hmm.
this is where you really get your performance. You want to maximize the ability of artificial intelligence at origin of your issue.
Mm.
Okay, and also edge and what I call origin is where you want to maximize both quantum and artificial intelligence. Say you're on a battlefield, you don't want necessarily the request for what I do next to go all the way back to BC or whatever. You
Yeah.
want to solve the problem where the problem was created, right?
Yeah.
So you move more of that capability deeper to where the problem originated. Now, the problem
Mm.
originated on the battlefield, and you want an answer, and you want that answer right away. That artificial intelligence environment is designed for answering that question at a battlefield
Mm.
perspective. Okay. Now,
Mm.
you see a lot of it on TV where you got the heads up display and all this kind of stuff. That's nice, but it has to be the quantum and AI marriage has to be as good or better than the human standing next to you. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like Microsoft has they label their AI copilot. It's a
Hmm.
copilot. Okay, it's not there to replace you. You're not there to replace it. You're there to work together with it, and that's what it's learning how to do.
Hmm.
And more or less, I learned how to figure out what Joe wants in this next sentence of this proposal that he's writing, that kind of thing, or they're writing. See, a lot of this stuff, I can say this, artificial intelligence, we are artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
Okay. It didn't create us, we created it. How do you
Yeah.
think artificial intelligence grows? It grows because of us.
Hmm.
It'll go right or left or up or down because of what we ask it to do.
Yeah.
Now, it's learning how to do stuff on its own, but it learned how to do stuff on its own from us.
Hmm.
See?
Yeah.
Now,
Hmm.
there's a good side and there's a bad side. And I always say this on these podcasts. AI can do three things along with quantum. It can create, it can
Hmm.
destroy, and it can do both at the same time.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers your question, but it's a lot in that particular answer because there's so many nuances in artificial intelligence. And then when you add speed to it, you see how that decision becomes so quick. You got to be really on your toes because if you make it a split second decision that's wrong, you're going to have to suffer the consequences. See?
Hmm. And
And AI, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. I'll listen to you.
No, no, AI can help you. AI is a very good risk mitigator if you know how to use it. You
Yeah.
know how to use it to mitigate risk of your, say, you're a project manager or your song or whatever, or your
Yeah.
budget for the month. It's an enabler to optimize things that you normally would do with pen and pencil. It does that very well. Okay.
Mm.
But it does it because it's mimicking what you do. It doesn't come up with that by itself. It says, oh, I've seen this in my large language model. There's something about this that maps to this particular situation. It does it so fast that you think it's instantaneous, but it's really not. It's a lot of coding and stuff.
Yeah.
Now, and that's why the data centers is another issue. The data centers are so important in a way because without that data center power and things like that, you don't have AI. You don't have
Mm.
quantum because it both use energy. Now, Max, knowing both use energy, you can use both quantum and AI to maximize the use of energy for quantum and AI. See what I mean? So you can use the software and the hardware to maximize the software and the hardware. That is where we're headed, so that it
Mm.
is faster in making a decision than you were. They're saying, well, here's these 5, 6 parameters. It may take you an hour to figure out how to gel all that together. It may take it at less than a half a second doing
Hmm.
the same thing. See? But you
Hmm.
taught it how to do that. You taught it how to make those calculations.
Yeah.
You gave it boundaries on the performance you wanted. Okay. And you're still the overseer of the result. You don't just take it for, just take a blind result. You make sure that it's correct. See?
Hmm. And do you know if any business owners or business around do take care of focusing on quantum? Because we hear a lot about
Oh,
datas. We do a lot about you hear Oracle,
ah,
you hear Nvidia talking about data centers. You never hear about quantum though. So do you
oh, 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 oh,
go
wait a
ahead.
minute, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
Who, who was the CEO of Nvidia that had the moonwalk back about quantum being 10 years down the road? He meant 10
Mhm.
seconds. Jensen Huang, when the CEO of Nvidia figured it out. Okay.
Yeah.
He creates graphic processing units, not quantum units, but he created software that interfaces in both environments.
Mm.
Okay. He figured it out that look, I can master artificial intelligence, but there's a new sheriff in town. So rather than say, well, I'm going to compete, even though I got 5 trillion in market cap, I'm going to position NVIDIA as the enabler,
Mm.
which was a smart move because NVIDIA is the hardware plant mostly you see for AI in the data centers. They're running on NVIDIA chips, graphic processing units. So
Yeah.
the key is somebody figured out a long time ago that if they're not building something that is emerging, they can't badmouth it. They have to look at it from the standpoint that this is a potential. And lo and behold, that's what happened with NVIDIA. Now they have an interface that is helping to optimize its technology and optimize quantum technology. You see what I mean? Earlier, what I was talking about?
Yeah.
See?
Hmm. So they do are developing quantum with that side of the data and everything. So you think they do
That's
have
correct.
both in their mind for the future of, I don't know, 20, 15 years. Go ahead.
Ah, I was going to add one more thing.
Go ahead.
Quantum sensors have been around longer than the main quantum computers that are still evolving. Quantum sensors have been there over 20, 30 years. MRI is a quantum sensor,
No. Okay.
magnetic resonance. Okay. It's a quantum sensor based environment. But
Hmm.
if you look at where things are going and you look at quantum sensing already down at a level like that and gathering information, you give it AI and ML at that level and say a little bit more quantum memory and things like that, you see how now all of a sudden that little sensor is extremely powerful.
Hmm.
Okay. It can gather more data because it's quantum level. It can store more data because of quantum level. It can communicate more data because of quantum level. And with
Hmm.
the AI and the ML at that level, that data could be encrypted, that data can be refined, that data can be integrated with other pieces of data way before it gets to the data center. See,
Hmm. Hmm.
what does that save? Power. It saves and increases the accuracy.
Yeah.
It definitely enhances the ability to secure the information because it's quantum secure native at that point. From origin of the information, where it really started, it was quantumized. The security was there. The determining if the data is accurate, all that stuff now can happen at a sensor level or a group of sensors, negating a lot of energy requirements for the data center to figure that out, or the computer environment in the data center. See my point?
Hmm.
That's
So
what things are going to because it's extremely fast to do it that way.
pretty. So how do you position yourself regarding all those technology with your business? Do you have a game plan of like planning yourself
Oh,
to
oh,
focus on one of those different technology? What's your
oh, okay.
business goal
Nah,
now?
okay. Okay. Now that's the $64,000 question. And don't laugh at this. My focus is on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You know who lives at the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in DC, right?
I don't
The
know.
White House. The
Okay.
White House. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into details now because I don't want to get into trouble, but you got to look at where things are going. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that and Elon, I always wanted to be, the head of this stuff, but it's so funny. You asked a quick question of where it is going. Hold on one second. Okay. One second here.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm looking at this. No, I don't see it. Okay, one of the things that I looked at was being able to, um, how can I say this? In my career, what I was really, really, really looking at, and when we talk about quantum and artificial intelligence and things like that, is not to get off the track, workforce development.
Mhm.
Max, that is the biggest problem. Okay. We have knowledge in certain areas, like I'm 58 years in this and things like that, but the technology is evolving so quickly.
Yeah.
The workforce has to catch up with that
Mhm.
knowledge because soon as you get certified, then all of a sudden here's another piece here that you need to be certified in. But you don't want to
Mhm.
spend your life in certification.
Yeah.
But adding more people and more awareness of what we're talking about today, and having a say a K through 12 approach, those are the smart things to do. Okay,
Hmm.
so it the biggest trend is really how we educate our workforce in this ever changing, uh, emerging technologies. Okay, we haven't even talked about autonomous and drones or anything like that. I'm a
Yeah.
FAA certified drone pilot.
Hmm.
Okay, 12 years I've been flying drones, and I've looked at this AI and quantum going into that space. And you know as well as I do, drones are hot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
not just in from a war perspective, but you see now
Yeah.
how these different things can integrate into software and hardware, and then all of a sudden now you got drones that are um, traveling hundreds of miles by themselves without a human intervention.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Do you think, so let's just go on to drone a little bit, but do you think Ukraine really helped put drone on the map? Do you
Oh
think
no, man! Oh
no?
no! You blow up a multi-million-dollar tank with a $500 drone. That's not cost effective.
Yeah, I know.
You know it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, to answer your question, what they did is help redefine warfare.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and you have to give them credit for that because when you're out there making a $500 drone that can destroy a multi-million-dollar airplanes and tanks and stuff like that, okay, maybe it's not the best way to do it, but it works.
That's what you need. But
Exactly.
on your experience with drone, did they never thought about that before Ukraine? Like here in the US, or was that not like a thought that came in as militarize the drones or make them as weapons?
Well, they were, but they were larger. like the
Oh, okay.
Predator and things like that. Not like the
Mm.
small ones, what they call
Oh, yeah.
first person view
Yeah.
and beyond visual line of sight. The bigger ones, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're just like copilot on an airplane. But
Yeah.
yeah, they had that. But the real benefit is when you can have the swarm of these small drones
Hmm.
and the AI and ML and things like that are learning as it is activated,
Hmm.
that becomes a whole new weapon system.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't even imagine that warfare is going to be mostly robotic and just AI fighting back to back at some point.
Well, and that's a good point because the Chinese and us and everybody working on androids, and so there's a lot of things happening that are based on what we're talking about. So you got to pay attention to it because you code it the wrong way, you may find out too late that you coded it the wrong way. Okay.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So coming back to your business right now, what's going well for Reddix Group? What's going well for your business?
Oh, I just got an offer to join a group to train. And it's so funny because it's on microelectronics. So it's on
Hmm.
circuitry and things like that that will integrate, AI and quantum. So I got an opportunity to be part of a consortium group that's focused on training for microelectronics that
Nice.
integrates AI and quantum. I just got that, and basically would be training people who want to get into that field and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, whether they're coming out of the military or
Hmm.
civilians, whoever. So that I'm a part of, and I already have a vehicle with DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, for what they call their expedited research uh,
Hmm.
innovation series. And I'm on that program. In other words, I got awarded a slot that allows
Nice.
me to not have to bid like
Mm.
everybody else, because
Yep.
now I'm in a closed group.
Yep.
Make a long story short, anybody that goes into the marketplace for DARPA can look us up and then purchase directly, negotiate direct contracts directly with us. Okay.
Hmm.
And
Nice.
DARPA is pretty good. DARPA is still one of the main agencies globally for advanced innovation and stuff. Okay.
Hmm. Nice. And for the next year, what's the big goal of your company or your business? What's the big 6 to 12 month goals for you guys?
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things. The idea, let's just look at it from a revenue stream standpoint. What you really want, since everybody's back to work right now, is to make sure that's stabilized. And what I would like, if I'm doing like one project is 5 million that will run multiple years, another one is 30 million. It's just a start money, but it'll last a lot longer than that. But to answer your question, to have two of my projects,
Hmm.
activated and used because they can go both from uh, a federal and from a private sector standpoint, and
Hmm.
they both relate to long-term storage of information and helping to alleviate problems with data centers and their utilization of power. Without getting into a lot of detail, those are some of the main projects I've been working on, reducing the amount of data center or power utilization and
Yeah.
enabling them to more efficiently work, and
Hmm.
then look at long-term data storage strategies.
Hmm.
Okay. So those are two main ones. And the other one would be the workforce development. That'll be the third.
Nice. Big plans for the business then.
No, I'm not by myself. Most of
Yeah.
the people in my group have been in the field for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Okay. And they have backgrounds that are very similar to mine. They may
Hmm.
have come out as ex-military and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Usually worked in cybersecurity or, you know what I mean? That
Nice.
kind of area. So,
Are they all under your business or it's all like business partnering into some projects?
oh, no, I created 20 years ago when I started a peer-to-peer network. So they're part
Hmm.
of a network. Rather than have a prime sub relationship based on the levels of technology that we need, Max, I needed a more elastic approach to solving those problems. So instead of having
Hmm.
a prime sub or being a member of a prime sub scenario, I really like the peer-to-peer.
Hmm.
Now, the value in the peer-to-peer is that if you have the knowledge to run majority of the tasks for a project, you have the opportunity to lead it. I'm
Hmm.
still aggregate program project portfolio management, but
Yeah.
you can run, which means you can get the majority of the revenue stream based on what you do. That's the
Mm.
peer-to-peer model. Okay.
Hmm. Nice. And that's been working for you guys for the last couple 20 years, 30 years?
It
Yeah.
allows,
Nice.
yes, the growth has been much better than, say, if I work for a multi-billion dollar corporation and
Yeah.
I'm basically a number in that corporation. Yeah.
Huh. Nice. I'm that's nice to hear to basically just partner with people and basically like split it all together. It's way more logical if we can say it like that. Hmm. So
Yeah.
if
Well,
go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. I'm good.
So if any one of our listeners want to like learn about you or get more information about you, where can they reach out or where can they come and talk to you?
Okay. Well, LinkedIn, I got about 83, 8,400 on LinkedIn. So that's the best place because I've been on LinkedIn for 21 years, one of the
Goddamn.
originals. But the idea is that I store a lot of stuff there, a lot of vetting, a lot of communication. So LinkedIn would be the best place. The next best place would be direct, either email, Joseph at reddixgroup.com. And of course, you can Google if you want a historical perspective of things that are already out there on the internet. So those are the ways I would do it. First, LinkedIn would be the best.
Nice. Been 21 years on LinkedIn. That's I didn't even know the platform was that old. I thought it was like a 5 or 10 years old platform.
Oh, no,
My
no,
poor.
no. I'm
Huh.
probably one of the first, either 50,000 or the first 100,000, maybe less than
Goddamn.
that. But I've been on it a long time.
Nice. Well, thanks for the conversation, Joe. That was amazing. Really great conversation we had together.
Okay, Max, you stay blessed and thanks a lot. Okay.
Thanks.